Greetings and salutations, my friends. Welcome to a brand new FM17 club guide, and this is going to be one of the most interesting ones we do. It's Champions of England, Leicester City, or if you're American, Leicester. This is going to be an interesting one because I have no idea what the club expects us to achieve this season. Are they going to expect us to retain the title? So in this guide, we're going to look through the club's philosophies, what the board expects us to achieve this season, how much money we've got to spend, have a quick look at the staff to see where it needs improving, a team report. Then we're going to look through the under-18s, under-23s briefly, just to see if there's any little young talents in there that we can nurture. And then we're going to go through the squad as a whole, talk about each player, each position, where the strengths and weaknesses of the team are and what we could improve upon, and then a basic sort of tactic setup and talk about that. And then also talk about the level of difficulty, because depending on what the board expects of us this season, it could be a very easy or a very difficult save. So here we go, starting off with the philosophies. None. Brilliant. I like that. I like none. None is fine. We'll move on to the finances. 9.5 million. That's not that much money to spend for the champions. They have spent a lot of money, obviously, in the summer, so that's part of it, I think. Just not much money left over. We do have £182,000 worth of wages, so we've got enough to bring in one good player, I think. So we'll keep that in mind when we look at the squad report. So next up, we're going to look at what the board expect of us this season. This is going to be the most interesting one for me, I think. So the Premier League, they can't expect us to win it. I'm going to say Euro Cup. Top half finish. Okay, top half finish. It is definitely doable. That's nice. Quite realistic there. FA Cup, they expect us the 6th round. League Cup, don't care. Community Shield doesn't really matter. And the Champions League, reach the group stage, which we are. So we've done that, haven't we? Well done us. Well done everyone. We've achieved that goal. So top half finish. Brilliant. This means it's going to be much easier, especially with the lack of money, so that's good. So next up, we're going to have a very quick look at the staff, just to see if we need to improve anywhere. So they have a pretty average setup. The trouble is that they don't have that much room for staff members. Only one extra coach. We've got 3 scouts and no physios. So I think it's time to sack some people. Bit of mutual termination of a bunch of these. The coaching's not too bad. It's pretty average, but the physios could get rid of a couple of physios, get rid of a couple of scouts, maybe a coach or 2, and just improve that. Next up, we're going to look at the team report. I'm not going to go through this as a whole because we're going to discuss it in more detail. But if you want to pause the video, have a look now. Some interesting ones there with just 9.5 million. Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. The money is not great at all. Right, let's have a look if there's any cheeky superstar talents in the youth team. We're not going to go through everyone. We're just going to look at the top talent, and that's Josef Kiaveni, the Hungarian 16-year-old. Looks alright, doesn't he? I don't think he's ever going to be a world beater. Let's hope there's something better in the under-23s. No, not massively. Quite a lot of dead wood that you could get rid of here. Our best player here is Bartosz Kapustka. Is he Russian? No, he's Polish. Okay, he's Polish. 19 years old. Decent talent. Loan him out for the season. Probably cash in on him after the season ends, see if we can get 4 or 5 million for him. But yeah, maybe a few others here, but there's nothing, and there's no good value here. There's a couple of players here like Tom Lawrence, 3.2 million, Ben Hamer to 3.2 million. Might be able to cash in on those, but other than that, not fantastic. So let's have a look at the main squad. Obviously, there's a couple of key players. We're not going to go through every player in detail, but we're just going to talk about the sort of quick players, then positions as a whole if we need to strengthen. So for goalkeepers, we've got Kasper Schmeichel, a really good, solid goalkeeper coming into his prime now. 29 years old is perfect. And we've got Ron Robert Zieler. He must be a new signing, yes. Signed from Hanover as his backup. And they're actually pretty close. That's quite interesting. He's got a couple of years on him as well. So they're pretty decent goalkeeper setup. Next, we're going to look at right backs. Danny Simpson is our one of our main right backs, and he's decent. I'm trying to think of this not as a Premiership winning team, as a mid-table team. So that's how we're going to sort, because that's our goal, top half finish. So let's try and get top half with this team. And he's a decent player. Ideally, he wouldn't be a first choice, but maybe a rotational option. we've got quite a few players that can play right back and centre back, so we'll have a quick look. He's definitely a centre back. Robert Huth is definitely a centre back. Benelouan is a centre back. So first things that comes to mind is a right back option. I think Danny Simpson's okay without being spectacular. The defence as a whole we'll go through now, but it doesn't look that strong. On the left side, we're a bit stronger. So we've got Christian Fuchs, who's superb, really attacking full-back, wing-back, can play left midfield as well. Very good player, 30 years old now, but very, very good. And then we've got Jeffrey Schlupp, who is a left-back stroke left midfielder. He can do both perfectly well, so I'm quite happy. You know, we've only got 9.5 million, so left-back's fine. Done. So centre-back options, we've got big Wes Morgan, not the quickest, but an absolute beast of a player. 32-year-old now, so he's going to have to be replaced longer term, but put your best defender at the club at the moment. Then we've got the likes of Robert Huth, who's, again, another solid defender. Both very similar, both very strong, solid centre-backs, not the most pace in the world. That's what you need to bear that in mind when building your tactic. Then we've got Marcin Wasilewski. Okay, him, again, same thing. Really good, solid centre-back, not that much pace, and he's 36 as well, so you've got to bear that in mind. And but a decent backup, I'd say. And then we've got Benelouan, who is the sort of weakest of the three, but a decent squad player, decent backup option. Then we've got Luis Hernandez, who actually, he could play as a decent right back. I like the long throws, that's quite nice to have. 13 crossing, decent backup right back. So you could squeeze by this season with Danny Simpson and Hernandez as your right back options. But we'll have a look as we go through the team in more detail. So then on to central midfield players. Let's have a look at Daniel Amati, because where is he best playing as? It actually makes for a very good centre-back, to be honest. Needs a little bit of work on his heading jumping reach, but other than that, he's a bit more pacey than the others, so gives you a bit more of an option. Still only 21 years old. You can play him as a defensive midfielder as well, of course. Then we've got Mende, Mende, and he's the typical ball-winning midfielder. Obviously, he's no Kante, is he? But he's a decent squad player, 24 years old. Then we've got Andy King coming into his prime. Really good season last season. Box-to-box midfielder or a playmaker. Very, very good player. A little bit, I would say, undervalued, I would say, on FM17 this year. I think he's a bit better than shows, but he's still a good squad player. Then we've got Matty James, who currently is listed on the transfer market. 24 years old, decent player. Valued at £8 million, so you either want to sell him off, maybe try and get 10 million for him, or keep him in your team as a sort of squad rotation option. Then we've got Danny Drinkwater, a superb player. He's going to be sort of one of the first names on your team sheet, along with obviously Vardy and Mahrez. Very, very good player. Likes playing as that playmaker role. And then you've got some really good youth talent. Do we go for, no, we'll save him. We'll save him. We'll go to Mark Albrighton. Very good player, can play on both sides, nice, and can even play fullback if you play really attacking fullbacks. He's okay at defending, marking's a little bit weak, but better off as a wide midfielder on both sides, probably the right-hand side if you're going to play him as a standard winger, being right-footed. Then you've got Riyad Mahrez, who is probably your sort of standout player, loves playing as an inside forward on this right-hand side. When you've got such a good player in your team, you want to pick his best position and play him in his best role and work around that. So I'm playing in this formation with an inside forward on the right, being Riyad Mahrez, supporting Vardy. Next up, we've got Shinji Okazaki. I love him in real life. He just looks so happy to be playing football. Really good backup option. He can play on the left, but more so up front or behind the striker. Not the best finisher in the world. He's not going to bag you lots of goals, but plays best as a defensive forward, much like Jamie Vardy. He's kind of like the backup Jamie Vardy. He's going to run all day. He's going to win the ball high up the pitch and do well for you. Like I said, I don't think he's going to bag a massive amount of goals. Next up, we've got Damari Gray, who's the youngster they got from Birmingham. Yes, 3.8 million last season. Really good, talented, pacey winger. Classic sort of winger on the right, or you can play him as an inside forward if you want to use two inside forwards. Very good. 20 years old. Possible 4.5-star potential. Very, very good youngster to have in the squad. Next up, one of their new signings, Ahmed Moussa. 3.5 star potential, 23-year-old Nigerian, pacey player. It says he's a ramduta or a winger on the left. Being right-footed and not being able to cross a ball kind of suggests otherwise. He's not very good at dribbling, not very good at crossing. Yeah, it's quite a weird one, that. But he can play as a striker as well, and he's got better striking options. You need to work out right at the beginning of the game how you're going to use this guy and train him for that position, because he does have some big weaknesses in game, but obviously his physicals were amazing. Then we have Ajoa. Is it Ajoa is pronounced, isn't it? 29 years old, decent backup, target man, something a bit different without being exceptional. Then we've got Slimani, who is a very, very good player in FM17. £31 million. Is that how much they paid for? $29.5 million they paid for him. Very, very good player. Could work a little bit on his first touch. He's going to play him a striker. Target man, advance forward. Very good player. Then we've got Jamie Vardy having a party. What could we say about this guy? Superb player. Plays best as a defensive forward, closing down the defenders, winning the ball back high up the pitch. So, let's talk about the sort of overall strengths and weaknesses and where we might spend our massive 9.5 million. Well, for me, we have some really good striking options. I think Jamie Vardy and Slimani could work really, really well together. And then we've got decent backup in Ajoa, Moussa and Okazaki. So I'm going to start. We're just going to muck about and build a basic formation. I'm going to start with something like that. Controversial. I don't normally go weird lopsided tactics, but I want to play where he's best. You can play him there as well if you wanted to play a 4-4-2, because you. But Riyad Mahrez wants to be further up the pitch, doesn't he? Basically, he can play perfectly well as a wide playmaker winger. I think you're just losing out something again. So I might try, this could be awful by the way, don't copy this tactic, make your own mind up. But I might try something like that with the two up top. I'm not concentrating on roles too much, but two up top with Slimani and Vardy. And then on the left-hand side, we know who's our midfielders. We've got Danny Drinkwater, we've got Andy King, we've got, what's his face, Hujima Flip. Danny Drinkwater, Andy King as our two main central midfielders. If you're going to sell Matty James, I think you need to get another central midfielder just to increase those options, really, because there's not a great deal of depth there. So, for me personally, I'd probably keep Matty James because he's a decent backup player and we need depth. The 8 million's nice if you've got a player in mind, but apart from that. And then on the left-hand side... What you could start to do is play Jeffrey Schlupp or Christian Fuchs, probably Christian Fuchs, as the left-sided midfielder, as a wide midfielder. Very, very good stats for that. And Jeffrey Schlupp at left-back or rotate as you see fit. So you might need to get some loan signing in just to cover those positions. But striking options, you're fine. Goalkeeper, fine. Right-back is a little bit weak. Centre-backs are okay-ish. But you just haven't got the money to do all those positions. So for me, I'd look to maybe getting a loan player that can cover the left side, allowing Schlupp and Fuchs to play, and also maybe strengthening the central midfield. Striking options, absolutely amazing. So I'd definitely play sort of attacking football to try and make the most of that. So as regards to how much fun this save would be and what sort of difficulty level it would be, I think this is relatively easy. And the reason I say that is you've got, let's say, Riyad Mahrez, Slimani and Vardy are four players that would get into most Premiership sides, right? And they're all attacking players. Now, you only need to achieve a top half finish. So the possibility of doing that with three players like that is very high. I think that's definitely doable. And obviously you've got Champions League this season. You're not expected to go far, but think of the money you're going to have next season. The money is going to pile on this season. You've already got 37 million in the bank. If you can survive that first season, you're going to be looking at 40, 50 million in the transfer kitty next season. So I think it's definitely doable. So on the difficulty level, I'd say this one's a little bit easier, but it should be a lot of fun using these big name players that had great seasons last season. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. Leave a comment If you're a Leicester fan, let me know what you think of the team in FM17. Which areas would you strengthen? In an ideal world, I'd buy a rotational backup left back. I'd buy a first choice right back. I'd buy a centre back and a central midfielder. But 9.5 million doesn't get you all those things. So let me know in the comments which one you'd spend the money on. Maybe 2 players you can get for 9 million. And maybe find a transfer list of players, find a loanee, that sort of thing. If you enjoyed the video, please do hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the place for all the team guides doing in the entire Premiership. And then I might go on to do some other, bigger teams from around Europe. And, just leave a comment and say hello. And I'll see you bright and early in the next video. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. Bye-bye.